This is the biggest advancement in human history. This is bigger than the internet. This is bigger than the Industrial Revolution.
How AI can potentially be democratizing the whole kind of ecosystem so that everybody could potentially be a rainmaker.
With leveraging AI, they can now become rainmakers in a way that they couldn't before.
So they were using AI to make that a lot faster and at scale.
One law firm that put transcribers onto all of its staff's devices, and the fee earners don't know how to disable it.
If you're curious about how to actually use AI in your day-to-day work as a lawyer, not just to keep up with the tech, but to make your practice more efficient, cut down admin time, and open up new opportunities, then you're going to want to join me at the AI Skills Summit for Lawyers. We're bringing in experts to run live sessions that will give you practical steps on how to use AI in your work. And for the first time ever, I'm revealing how I leverage AI to turn legal expertise into influence and authority on LinkedIn in a special session. But here's the important part. If you're already on the wait list, this does not secure your spot. You'll have to pre-register, and only those who do will get free access. So if you want to save hours in your week, work smarter, and stay ahead of the curve, take 60 seconds and pre-register right now. The link is in the show notes of this episode. I'm speaking with Richard Macklin, ex-Global Vice Chair of Denton's, and now world-class coach for leaders at the Alexander Partnership. He's also on the training committee for the City of London Law Society. If you were building a law firm or you are managing a law firm now, you've mentioned a few points, but how would you approach it with the whole AI thing?
If I was building a law firm now, if I was building one now, I wouldn't build a traditional law firm. It doesn't mean there isn't a place for a traditional law firm. There is. But frankly, if I was starting from scratch, I'd be looking at ALSPs, alternative legal suppliers, with a hand-in-hand collaboration with tech, with AI, and I'd be looking to produce a service based on the technology rather than a law firm that delivers traditional high-end big law stuff. That doesn't mean, as I say, there's not going to be a place for them. There is. I just wouldn't want to do it right now, because what you're doing really is retrofitting the old model.
Right.
You're killing the billable hour. You're making huge investments and risks in how you change your delivery model. If you're building it from the ground up, you wouldn't have started from there. Do you see what I mean? You'd start from here. So I do it that way.
In this very frank conversation with Kyle Torrington, the co-founder of Loft Legal, a tech-driven online law firm, and co-founder of AirCounsel, an AI-powered contract drafter for attorneys, we discuss which parts of legal practice are on the brink of being replaced by AI, what the real role of lawyers could look like in just a few years, and how those who act now can future-proof their careers. He shared perspectives on how tech and AI can shape the role of law firms in a way that I've never heard people speak about before. How did you feel when ChatGPT came about and your brain starts going, oh, how do we use this in the law firm?
I mean, I remember when it came out, and I told my co-founder, I'm like, this is the biggest advancement in human history. This is it. This is bigger than the internet. This is bigger than the Industrial Revolution. This is going to be far greater, and it's going to affect everything that we do in law. And I mean, that moment, I remember clearly where I was at the time, and it was going into December of 2022. I thought, well, we need to get building on this. So although in South Africa at that time, it's a holiday period, that's when we got straight into building during that December period of how we can integrate it into our site, because it was just so revolutionary. It really, really was. Although we've advanced far internally, far beyond just using ChatGPT, obviously, that was the genesis to everything, really. As with most firms in their AI discoveries, was ChatGPT.
What was your next step then? How did you start to use that in your day-to-day work?
The next steps were, obviously experimenting with through the ChatGPT interface, what it can do, what its limitations were. At that stage, we were limited with GPT 3.5, which wasn't amazing. One of the first things, the first API, meaning doing the programmatic work on our website without users having to actually leave our website or us going directly to the ChatGPT interface through an API, was our trademark search component, where Up until that point, if people wanted to do a trademark search, a free trademark search through us, we would have humans doing the trademark search. We'd have to go into the respective countries' trademark databases, retrieve the trademark search results, do a search ourselves, and provide the client with a manual response. And then we thought, well, this is something that AI can do. So we developed a AI solution where you just simply type in the name that you want to trademark. It would then pull from the country's respective databases. The AI would then look over the results and decide, like a human, is there a conflict? Is there not a conflict? Is it generic? Is it not? Are there other conflicts in terms of laws that could render it not registrable? And then deliver the client with effectively a report, and if it is available, a link to go through with the process and order the trademark registration through our site. So that saved us probably, or our staff, probably about an hour or 2 hours a day of free searches. And then as soon as we realized we could do that, we thought, hold on, this is just the start. And then it just became everything.
How do you see AI and technology being used in law firms in the future? Like, let's say in the next 5 years.
I mean, I wouldn't say to keep up with firms like mine, but purely because of client pressure, I believe. Clients, I think, will get to a point where they expect it to both bring down costs, increase efficiency, and ultimately produce a product which is greater than a lawyer on their own or greater than AI on their own. I just think the expectations will become a lot higher to the point where you've got no choice. I just can't see it, to be honest with you. It really will become a necessity. And to our minds, at this point already, it's a necessity.
Is there any part of your work that you feel like you don't want AI to touch, or you wish that it won't get to that point where you need to use AI for a certain area?
There's hope, although not based on logic, that I hope that lawyers will still remain necessary. And I do hope that there will always be that human touch element in legal services. But I think from a cold, hard logic perspective, in terms of providing better legal services, I don't see in the long term how humans are on our own going to remain in front of AI or to remain better or cleverer or provide a better output than AI. I don't think it's possible that it's going to go that route. I do see that AI will quite soon overtake the ability of most professionals across the globe, whether it be law or otherwise. If a client could get the right answer at 100th of the cost, but to them, they don't care whether it comes from a human or AI.
I've wasted hours drafting contracts in my business. I've used clunky templates, even written from scratch, looked into paying lawyers. I've even tried ChatGPT, but it just didn't hit the mark. I knew there had to be a better way. And then I found this, AirCounsel, an AI contract drafter built by lawyers for lawyers. I spoke to the team at AirCounsel and they use it for their own legal work, and they're improving it every single day based on real life feedback. It actually does the heavy lifting for you. It researches your jurisdiction's laws and nuances and picks up local drafting quirks and even matches your tone and style. It then builds a ready-to-edit Word document with hyperlinks, numbering, and a table of contents. It's so quick. I was so impressed when I used it. What I love about it is you can ask it to draft any contract you like, and it will even give you suggestions for appropriate terms or clauses that you'd never even think of. If you're still spending hours drafting contracts the old way, you don't have to anymore. This changed everything for me. If you're a lawyer, business owner, service provider, it might just do the same for you. And AirCounsel have been kind enough to sponsor this episode, and I'm so excited to spread the word. It's the most sophisticated contract drafting software I've used. To get your free 7-day trial, just go to the description of this episode. Give it a go, and don't forget to let me know how it changes your workflow. How do you think, in your opinion, that lawyers can, in this sense, future-proof themselves?
Well, obviously, adopting the technology, firstly, is a must. It has to be done. I think leveraging off AI technologies that are out there to increase their output, perhaps drop their costs as well to some extent, but augment them to a point where they are provided with, or their output is far better than they would otherwise be able to put out themselves. But with the help of AI, they are able to produce a product which is of a far greater quality. So they just have to, I think, start experimenting with it and start to use the tools. Alternatively, I mean, there's obviously the route of going, well, I'm going to position myself as a lawyer in providing services where the respective law society in my country reserves that work for only humans. So litigation, for example, or something to that effect. That's another way of doing it, where you've got these, for lack of a better word, artificial barriers where AI is just simply not allowed to produce the actual output. They could be involved in the process, but ultimately you have to have a human representing you, for example, during litigation. So that's another strategy to sort of future-proof yourself. But over time, as it becomes more accepted, I don't know if law societies will start to drop those sort of barriers. But then again, there are going to be interest groups from lawyers within the respective countries lobbying to prevent that and protect themselves, which I just don't know how that's going to play out. But that's another strategy, I would think.
I think another thing is basically what you did, but I feel like you did it because you found it fun, but you kind of focused a lot on coding and this tech side because you found it fun, and also law. And I think if people want to future-proof themselves, then they should learn more about AI technology and coding as well. Basically, they said they wouldn't recommend people to become lawyers now because how much the industry is changing. But I feel like if you applied that to all industries, the same is relevant for all industries because AI is transforming every single industry. So I think
100%.
that's crazy to think that. But what are your thoughts on that?
I tend to agree, although my horizon would be shorter than 20 years. I don't know how it will play out. Will it always be law firms being augmented with AI? I can only see it being that for a period of time, whilst provided we're protected but not based on logic, that's the only way we could remain AI human augmented. With how clever the systems are getting, it is, as I mentioned, it is going to overtake humans very quickly. So logic dictates that we will not be relevant in our profession, I don't think, apart from hand-holding, but that is the only reason we'd be kept in the professions is because of possibly that hand-holding aspect, which does not depend on the intellectual ability that our respective industries or the expertise in our industries or the people in the respective industries have got or had up until this point.
I'm sitting down with Peter Wright, Managing Director at Digital Law, a specialist law firm advising on digital legal issues.
I think there is very much a pressure to be seen as an early adopter, a pressure to sort of keep up with others. So it's like if you see a competitor or whatever, or as they partner with another firm saying, oh, we're using this, we're using that. And you want to be able to say, well, actually, yes, we've jumped on the bandwagon and we're using this, this, and this, and it's really helped us, and to have a positive story to talk about there in terms of tech adoption. And I think sometimes that's meaning that perhaps because they don't understand it, partners and directors are saying to their IT teams, we'd like a system that goes ahead and does this, please go ahead and do it. And then they're sort of empowering IT, thinking, oh, this is the best thing. They don't want boring oversight from us. We won't understand what it is they come back with and ask about anyway, so we'll just tell them to go and do it. And this literally then leads to these sort of sometimes quite restrictive terms being agreed to. And then you suddenly find, as I say, that you're locked in. And I've spoken to people within the legal tech industry. I know of one law firm that put transcribers onto all of its staff's devices, and the fee earners don't know how to disable it. So therefore, it's running in the background of the device all the time. What I'm coming around to say is that this is where firms need to think quite carefully about, well, what's your policy going to be on this stuff? We work with a lot of our clients on setting up AI guidelines so that staff know we have a framework in place which we will follow when it comes to the use of AI. They will deliver training to staff on how to use these systems, why they're using these systems, making sure that staff don't think, oh, I want to circumvent this because I don't like it, and explaining, well, no, this is here to actually save you time, and this is the reason why we've done it, and therefore it's great if you could use it, and this is how to use it. But otherwise, you can get into real problems. As I say, you get staff might circumvent it. They might not know how or when it should be used. They might be using it on the wrong occasions. And the real risk, what if your staff are using AI tools and you don't know about it? What if they've started using, something like ChatGPT for drafting certain letters, and they're just not asking it to do a few paragraphs. What if they're dropping in information, Mr. Davis of 34 Acacia Avenue, ChatGPT, please draft me a letter to do blah, blah, blah. Even if it's like a covering letter to something straightforward and tedious, no advice in there, but they're using that to save time.
Yeah.
Have you told them not to do that because of the issues around personal data? Are they using a transcriber? Are they using certain systems that, as we say, would not actually be compliant, but they're using it because it's a time saver, like, say, a grammar checker? How many people don't want to sit there and work out typos and, what's wrong? And they could be using something that, again, is not properly secure. And guess what? A lot of those grammar checker bots very often rely on AI. Very often, guess what? They're looking at all the data, in particular, if you've got those embedded ones that you can actually have embedded into Outlook or your email platform of choice. Guess what? They might not be entirely secure and therefore not necessarily compliant. And you may find, if the worst happens, you're in a legal and regulatory breach position.
Do you think law firms should, as a non-negotiable nowadays, have an AI policy in their firms?
Yes. All firms should have AI guidelines as part overall of the documentation that we have to have in place as regulated entities, as law firms. We all have detailed policies around how we handle client money. We all have detailed policies in terms of the standards we expect to see on our interactions with our clients. And it's just a matter of extending that a little bit when it comes to AI. So we're not saying go away and reinvent the wheel and have some really terrible, difficult to follow, difficult to understand AI guidelines in place for your firm. We're just saying add something into your firm's handbook as a whole that says, well, this is our approach when it comes to the use of AI, and explaining what tasks it should be used for and give staff guidelines on that. But then make it quite clear what you shouldn't be using it for. Do not assume that just because it's come from ChatGPT that it's all perfectly fine and okay and safe to use, because guess what? I'm continuing to see headlines about firms sometimes relying on research that it has come through from ChatGPT, and it's totally fabricated different cases and made up citations.
Where do you start with, I guess, doing your due diligence and making sure that this software that you choose is trusted, reliable, and also compliant?
So it's a matter of doing the basic wading through what might be some rather dry terms and conditions and a rather dry privacy policy. But it's worth doing it to establish the baselines in terms of how this system is designed and operated, what data it collects, how long it collects it for, where does it go, what's it specifically designed for. Make sure you're designing something, you're procuring something that is actually designed for the function that you're wanting it to undertake. And if you've carried out something like a privacy impact assessment on it, great. I'd be wanting to actually tell your staff about the lengths you've gone to, tell your clients, so that you know that not only is it safe and secure, you've then got a full understanding of the benefits that you'll reap from its use. So this shouldn't necessarily be a sort of a sinkhole in terms of time and resources. What you're doing is actually investing, by taking this step, you're investing in your future sort of marketing and your future training to your staff and upskilling them as well. So this shouldn't be seen as, oh, this is an expensive thing we've got to go through, it's going to be time consuming and you're just going to get in the way. Well, no, this is actually part of a really important exercise for your firm. Because the other thing as well is each time with each big piece of tech procurement, it should be a lessons learned.
I'm sitting down with Jody Glidden and James Wang, the founders of Postalize, a groundbreaking AI platform that's transforming how law firms build relationships and win business. Jody is a serial legal tech entrepreneur and the brains behind IntraHive, a leading CRM intelligence platform. James is a BlackBerry veteran who led global ISV strategy and secured over 30 million in partner-driven revenue. I want to dive into a topic that we spoke about in our last conversation, which was about the role of AI and rainmakers and how AI can potentially be democratizing the whole kind of ecosystem so that everybody could potentially be a rainmaker. Yeah. Jody, can you talk a little bit more about this concept?
Yeah, I think we're all seeing this in the world, right? That we're all now leveraging AI to become an expert in everything. So I think that's same thing is crossing over now into the missing skills that some attorneys wish they had around rainmaking. You can do deep research on clients and you can find out everything you need to know about them. You can get those conversation starters so that you can have regular conversations. You can put things in place in order to try to make sure that you never forget them, and all these sorts of things that good rainmakers do. Leading indicators, being proactive, all that. So I think with the people that know how to kind of cut those or put those pieces all together, still manually at this point, but with leveraging AI, they can now become rainmakers in a way that they couldn't before.
Yeah, I'll add one more. I just literally was talking to a UK-based firm a couple of days ago, and they have an interesting take. They have actually a tech incubator, and they're looking at AI-type solutions, and they're trying to bring those types of solutions to market broadly from a legal perspective. Of course, obviously, with the selfish intent of having first dibs on kind of what's the latest coming up. So they're doing that aspect of that. And they also build their own AI tools, which they then sell to their clients. And I was talking to them and they were saying, hey, our clients are actually asking us to work in tandem with them and leveraging AI. What that's done, of course, obviously that's brought down the billable hours. But what they were saying is, and the specific use case was around like contract generations, contract reviews, those types of things. So they were using AI to make that a lot faster and at scale. So being a part of that helps them actually.
I think everybody knows that matters will be cheaper in the near future, right? And that's why you're seeing people putting more things out to bid than they used to before, because they know there's efficiencies in there somewhere and they just want to shake them out of there. And that's why you're seeing people doing more fixed price matters. So that's a big rise as well, as like they say the death of the billable hour. It's just the start right now, but we can see that as a trend. AI is somewhat eating some of the hours.
Just remember, these GCs actually expect the AI to be used because that's why they are putting it out to bid. They know that it's going to be lower. They know that the cost is going to be cheaper. They know that it's going to be faster, right? So you can't get away from it. It is out there, and that genie's gone.
From what you're saying, it really sounds like using AI can actually help lawyers become much more human, but also valuable to their clients, because it means that they can focus on things that they weren't able to focus on before. Before they were focusing on admin and bitty tasks that would take them hours, whereas now all that stuff is done by AI and they can actually focus on building relationships. And like what you were saying, Jody, about being proactive instead of reacting to things that happen in the news or whatever. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that point.
I follow the Lawyer Talk forums on Reddit quite a bit because it gives me a good pulse of like what some of the younger lawyers are thinking about these days, like the associates that are trying to make partner and everything. And really, if I compare the associates that are struggling with these questions, like how do I become partner or how do I become rainmaker, and then I compare them to some of the best rainmakers I know, there's really two things. One is that the rainmakers intuitively understand that in order to turn a client into a lifetime client, you need to turn the relationship from business to personal. There's a lot of things to that. We could break that down and all this kinds of things about how you do that and everything. But that's part one, right? Is you need to be much more personal, much more connecting, much more human. And AI, ironically, can help you do that. And then part two is you have to move from reactive to proactive. And reactive, so don't just sit there, wait for the phone to ring. You are actually understanding these leading indicators. You're sort of watching things, and then you're reaching out and you're offering assistance. It doesn't have to be like, hey, do you want to buy some legal services? It's like, hey, it's been a year and a half since you raised your round. If you want any introductions for your next round of financing, we've got some great introductions.
And if I start mixing some metaphors, but if you think about like planting seeds and then you water them a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, slowly they're going to sprout, and then you're going to just start reaping that, right? So it's always, you want to kind of get to the end point very, very quickly, but sometimes you do have to plant those seeds, nurture them, and then that's what turns into business.
What about then, what do you think about how the culture of law firms, because culture is based on, I mean, in my experience and from what I know by speaking to people in the industry across the world, it's based on hierarchy. And particularly those rainmakers are the ones that are kind of really looked upon and really valued and everyone else kind of works for those guys. How do you think the culture of law firms is going to change with this democratization of rainmakers? I've got a feeling that it's going to completely disrupt the culture within law firms, you know?
Now, the information is available to everybody. The education is available to everybody. The tools is available to everybody. So that means like more people in big firms, but it also means smaller firms.
But just remember, other people are looking at this going, maybe that model isn't the right model. Maybe we can do it better, cheaper, faster, at scale. So just keep that in mind, because that might, if the law firm doesn't change, other people are going to change for them.
If you're a legal tech founder still trying to grow your brand, the reality is this: someone with half your expertise is about to out-position you. And when they do, you don't just lose reach, you lose deals, investors, opportunities, and more. I'm opening exclusive free access to a blueprint I've never shared publicly. If you want to become law firm's go-to legal tech solution, you'll need to become the leading authority. I explain exactly how in my blueprint. Go to the description of this episode to get it sent straight to your inbox now.